Alrighty then, we are live. This is episode number 83 of the Daytripper Photo Show. Thank you everybody for watching. My name is Brian Weiss. Good to see you everybody. And with me right now is Darren. Darren Gahan is with us right now.
Hey!
Gabriel's a little bit late. He might show up a little bit later on. He was stuck in traffic last I heard him. So hopefully he'll be in the show. But otherwise, you know, we got this down. We're talking about shadows, and this is something that Darren is amazing with. Understanding light. He always talks, and he's a big proponent of understanding light and working with light. The flip side of that,
I talk about it. I don't know that I always understand it, but I talk about it.
Fair enough. But today we're going to be flipping that a little bit and talking about shadow. We gave the photo assignment last week, or the photo challenge, I should say, was shadow, and some of the photos we received were fantastic, and we really, really liked them. I made a comment on our community how I was scrolling through my wall one day, and I noticed all these great photos, and it turns out that they were all from the photo challenge, which was really cool. Just random people in our community posting photos that were on my main wall and really drew my attention. So it was a neat challenge, and I thought maybe a whole show would be a good thing to do on shadows. So that's what we're going to do. And, of course, Darren, what have you been up to this week, man? Busy week?
Oh, yeah, it's been busy. The real estate market is picking up, and driving around, going crazy, editing photos, doing some work for a builder. It's just, yeah, lots of stuff. Refracting light, diffracting light, trying to diffract my income tax payments.
Ooh. It is the season. It is the season. I've already done mine, thankfully. I came out unscathed. That's always a good thing.
Oh, I made my payments, and I'm still surviving. I haven't repossessed my car or house yet, so I think I'm still good.
Keep up the good work. I've been nuts. I had a whole problem. My shed pretty much fell apart, so I had to tear it all down and build a new one. And of course, I'm doing time lapse of the whole thing. I mounted a GoPro to my wheelbarrow, a GoPro to the big garbage dumpster, and I had the shorts shooting time lapse the whole time. I come in, I try and load the GoPros up, 54 photos. That's it. So I don't know what happened.
Battery died?
Must have. Those batteries suck on GoPro. Apparently, you can buy a battery from like a Canon. There's an adapter you can use, a Canon camera battery to keep your GoPro running. If I could find that, then I might switch to Canon for that. No, I wouldn't. Anyway, back to what we're talking about. Hey guys, if you're watching our show right now, say you're watching on YouTube after the fact. If you're watching live, great. Join in our Q&A. I've got the Q&A app already open. So please, everybody, if you have anything to add to our show, go ahead, join in the Q&A. But if you're watching after the fact, make sure that you click like or subscribe, share this with your friends, let other people know what we're doing. We have a lot of fun doing the show, and hopefully you guys enjoy it. And if you do, tell the world. That's all I got to say. Tell the world.
So out of your 54 photos, was that enough for a decent time lapse, or it was too short?
No, there was nothing in the garbage bin at that point. That was even before I started putting stuff in it. So it was like one McDonald's bag was all that was in the bin the whole time. That's anyway.
Yeah, when I'm working, it's hard to take photos when I'm working on projects because I get into it, my hands get dirty, and I don't want to wreck an expensive piece of equipment. To take a couple of photos that I can't sell them, can't make any money on it.
Right.
And I'm going to risk my livelihood piece of equipment.
Well, it's funny because I kept checking back on my phone and it kept on saying that it was shooting. So there has to be on there. I have to find another way to. Maybe I'll use my card reader rather than just plugging the thing in. But that's my problem. I'll worry about that.
Technology, isn't it? Doesn't it come up and like just bite you sometimes?
Sometimes. Welcome to my world. The shorts did work fine, and I made sure I put my grip on there so that I have extended battery life on this sucker. I was shooting all day, and it's still a full charge, so these batteries are phenomenal. And I think I've got over 1,000 photos from this, so that'll be interesting. Maybe I'll have some time-lapse stuff on there, show my shed tearing it down and clearing out all the crap from the back 40, all the raccoon poo, literally all the crap. Anyway, squirrel.
Party at your place.
Yeah, yeah, right, eh?
Not for the raccoons, anyways. Not anymore.
It's so clean back there right now. It's just like a whole different backyard. It's awesome. No question yet. Just thought make your presence known. Thank you, Kathleen, and glad that you're making your presence known. Thank you for watching. lots of cool stuff to talk about tonight. And why don't we start getting to that? Why don't we talk about this? You know, I was reading an article on the internet. A gentleman named Ron Bigelow posted a really great article on shadows, and I'm going to share the link with that later. But he broke it down to five main ways to use shadows in photography. And a lot of the folks in our community have done that quite well for this photo challenge this week. And we're going to get to that in a few minutes. But you know, shadows are more than just a black spot on a photo. Now, Ron Katz posted something which was pretty awesome. Maybe you can do a screen share of Ron's photo while I'm talking about it, Darren.
Okay, just give me a second here and I'll get that up.
You bet. Ron posted this photo. Obviously, shadow, you would assume, would be very dark and so on. So he posted it. It was brilliant. He got lots of funny comments. And oh, there it is. There's the photo.
I think, yeah, I made a comment about that. I said it was diametrically opposite to a photo that I posted earlier about winter, where I just posted a white picture.
It's clever. I thought that was great, and you know, it had some good conversation, and everybody got a laugh. So thank you, Ron, for posting that. That was funny. But it's more than just a black spot in a photo, and I think that's what some people really kind of forget when it comes to shooting shadows. They really help create mood and dynamics. They shape and they modify the light. They really help you work with all that. So using shadow to create a look in a photo is a lot more than just, hey, look, there's a shadow, click. Leading lines, you can use all the different things. Now, we always talk about how you have to have good lighting. Darren, as I say, you always talk, when I'm talking about focus and the bright angle and all that stuff, you always say, and remember, you have to have good lighting. It's all about lighting.
Yeah, a photograph, in my opinion, a photograph is made up of 3 components. And if you're weak on any one of the 3 components, it's like a tripod. 3 legs, it's perfectly stable. You yank away one of the legs on a tripod, and what do you got? You got something that'll fall over. So, with your photograph, if you've got good composition, and you've got good lighting, and you've got good technical settings in your camera to record all that stuff, then you get a great image.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're falling down on your lighting, if you haven't got good lighting, but the other 3 or the other 2 are good, well, you're missing that one key component. So you could have a really great photo, not be as good as it could be, or just plain old, sometimes be toast, garbage, because the lighting just wasn't there.
But then, rarely though do we think of the shadows that same way, do we? You have to have texture and contrast and all the different things, right?
We see everything in our world. We see everything with 2 eyes. Those of us that have 2 eyes. Anybody that's ever lost sight in one eye or had to cover up an eye, you're immediately at a disadvantage in a lot of things that you're trying to do. You're trying to stick a screwdriver into something and you've got no sense of depth. So in photography, the camera really only has 1 eye, right? It sees everything 2-dimensionally. So how do we get that extra dimension? Is we use shadows to give depth. And sometimes shadows can be your friend. Sometimes shadows can be your worst enemy.
Mm-hmm.
And in my real estate world, when I'm photographing a house, and I usually point the flash around backwards so that I effectively use the wall behind me as a huge light box to light up the room. So my light source is huge to eliminate shadows.
Mm.
However, the odd time, I won't catch it, and there'll be a mirror behind me.
Mm.
And then I get home and I'm looking at the photos, and here's a shadow of me doing this.
That's a whole different kind of shadow photo.
It is, and sometimes it's quite annoying. Or if you're into portrait photography, God forbid that you let the shadows show on a double chin or a wrinkle, right? Mm-hmm. That's where you don't want any shadows, right? You want the shadows, on a short nose to make the nose look longer. Right, so you want to use shadows to give face dimension, but you don't want to have the shadows and the wrinkles. So,
well, have you ever sat in on any of Ross's presentations on lighting and so on and so forth? When he moves the lighting a certain way, and you get Rembrandt lighting, and then you get different kinds of lighting, butterfly lighting, and so on. Just the way the shadow falls, and what kind of you can just see the way my hat's fall, the shadows falling. Just the way you look at these things, as you say, for portraiture and so on, it's very, very important. So. I guess one way to say that is, it's been said that you need to master the shadows pretty much as you need to master the light to really be a great photographer. So I think giving this challenge to our community was a very good thing. I hope. Guys, let us know. Let us know in the Q&A. And speaking of Q&A, Louise, hello. Thank you for watching tonight. It's nice when people just kind of pipe up and say, hey.
And here was a shadow I had today. This was a very light shadow. I thought it was kind of interesting.
Oh, he's a puppy.
Kind of shadow that makes you go, oh.
Yeah. Is the dog's name Shadow?
I have no idea.
Oh,
These people, they didn't even lock the door to their house.
oh my God.
I get there, they weren't home, the agent didn't leave me the combination for the lockbox, and I said, oh, I'll just see if the door's unlocked. And it was.
And their dog was home.
And then I looked inside, and I thought it was just a stuffed toy lying on the floor. No, it was a dog. Barely budged. If that was my dog, it'd be yip, 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 yip.
And he shadowed you the rest of the day, right?
No, actually, he came up, sort of looked at me, and then he took off, and he went his way. I tried to make friends. He didn't want to make friends. I was a stranger in his house. So.
Well, I love when people can take a play on words like that. Even Mark Flinders posted his photo, and I'll do a quick screen share. There you go. The cat named Shadow.
The cat named Shadow.
So there's so many different things that people could have put on our challenge, and I'm very happy with all of them. It was just a really fun week for looking at people's photos. All right. Where are we here? So yeah, you say it gives depth, and that in the two-dimensional world of photography. Now, explain a little bit more about that. Like, why is it important, and how do shadows give you depth?
Well, like I say, with our eyes, we can tell how far away something is or how close something is. So if we're looking at some rocks, right, we know the size of a rock because one's closer than the other, right? But in the flat plane of photography, the only way that we get a sense of depth is if there's a shadow. If the rock is creating a shadow, it gives us a sense of scale and size, how big it is. The Grand Canyon. The Grand Canyon doesn't really look as spectacular at 12 noon as it does first thing in the morning or last thing in the evening because of the shadows.
Yeah.
Right. So the shadows give a sense of depth and scale, and part of the canyon's in shadow and part of the canyon's in sun. So it makes it look bigger, makes it look more grand.
And that's something that you could use your shadows for. So let's talk about those 5 ways to create or to use shadows in photography. We'll kind of give some examples of each. I don't know if we have actual photo examples of each, but we'll see what we do. All right. What are you thinking?
Oh, I'm just quickly looking through some photos here to try to pick up shadows.
Oh, okay, cool.
Some images of shadows.
Some examples. Good. So one way to use shadows is contrast and drama. So as you say, contrast is really important, and the eye is drawn to contrast. The eye, when you see something where there's a sharp edge, black and white and so on, your eye is drawn right to it. So shadows can create the contrast between light and dark, and of course using them this way will catch the viewer's eye. So you could use shadows to catch the viewer's eye. What have you got there? And
also shadows can be used to create a mood. I don't know, was that in one of the 5 points? I think it was. I don't have that screen open.
Nope. Well,
okay.
Drama, contrast and drama. It's the drama.
So a shadow can create a very dramatic mood. If you have high key, or key is we were talking about this earlier. Key is a fancy word for contrast in the world of photography. So if somebody says high key, they mean high contrast, and it can create a really dramatic effect. So this photo here of a little growth on a tree. That we shot in Algonquin a couple of years ago or last year. Mm-hmm. I put the flash off camera and created this really strong shadow effect. And then here the flash is a little bit more direct, still off to the side a little bit, so we have a little bit of depth still. There's a little triangular piece in the right-hand side of it, but we have more direct lighting. So it's less dramatic than this image. Right, so the mood of these 2 images is completely different, and then I think I've got a third one for lighting here where I put the light up a little bit higher, and I'm creating a little bit of shadow underneath it. Mm-hmm. Right, so the way that the light falls on something, and wherever there's light, there's going to be shadow. And I don't know whether that's always true, because sometimes if the lighting is diffused enough, the shadows will disappear. They will go away. And that, I guess, is the art sometimes of portrait photography. I've known some portrait photographers that were always looking to try to get rid of shadows. You know, the little shadows, the unwanted shadows.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if somebody's wearing eyeglasses, there's always going to be a shadow along the arms of the eyeglasses or the rims. You know, so finding a way that you can make those shadows, you know, disappear in those areas, but still get that, you know, nice effect, the dramatic effect for the lighting.
One of the first things I learned about lighting was the difference between an umbrella and a softbox, and I thought that was quite interesting. And it's all based on contrast. For example, if I have a softbox right here, then I have an umbrella right here, and they're both firing the same amount of light, what would happen with the umbrella is the light would go, 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 and then kind of stop. Then you'd have a harsh drop-off of light, so it's more contrasty. Whereas a softbox would come at you and then slowly taper off, so it's a lot less contrasty. So depending on what kind of lighting you're trying to achieve in a portrait, the difference between an umbrella and a softbox is very going to give you a big difference in your contrast and in your shadows. Now Blake just posted a really neat little post here from petapixel.com. Video shows how a person's face changes depending on the lighting. So that's something that I'm actually going to share in the YouTube link when that's posted after the show. I've made a note here and I'm going to put that up. Thank you, Blake, for sharing that.
One of the most fun things you can do, and everybody can do this, you don't have to have your camera handy, you can do it with a flashlight. If you're going camping or you're out with people, you're out in the backyard, you know, the weather's getting nicer now, so go out in the backyard when it gets dark, bring a flashlight with you, and a flashlight here, bring the flashlight with you, and go outside and shine the light this way, and then shine the light this way, and shine the light this way, you know, take someone else out there and you shine the flashlight on them and do this, and do that, and do this, and see how you can create a dramatic effect. See how that is, and then what you're really trying to do with the camera is capture that kind of lighting.
Mm-hmm.
So to see how it's going to look, you know, well, would it be better if I had the light over here or over here? Well, if you try it out, you'll see, you know, the light from below, lighting somebody from below, and you should know this from your zombie photography, makes people look scary.
Exactly. That's my favorite kind.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say that Joseph Leduc just posted a little post in the Q&A. He says, the shadow is the soul of the image.
It is.
Now, I'm questioning what he means by that because he spelled soul, S-O-L-E. So is it the foot of the bottom of your foot, or is it, you know, I'm just kidding. I know what you mean.
Maybe he spells like I do.
Yeah, right. Oh, Blake already added that to the event. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah, at the good shadows, good photo. Bad shadows, bad. Well, sometimes you get good photos from bad shadows because you didn't know they were there, and then you start playing with it, and you go, "Hey, this is cool."
Mm-hmm.
And it's sometimes you can't avoid them, right? If you can't avoid a shadow, use it. You know, if you can move it around, or you can move your position around to where you are.
I enjoy the shadows. I love shooting for shadow. Like when I'm doing anything for wrestling, the portraiture that I do for wrestling is very dramatic, and I love using shadows for that. So a lot of the stuff I use, I'm trying to actually emphasize the shadows a little bit. One of the really neat things I was doing, I wanted to make sure that I increased the muscle tone on the wrestlers. So they're pretty fit guys most of the time, but sometimes I remember I was shooting one of the guys a gentleman that actually has his own TV show, which is interesting, on YTV, and he wanted to have his abs more defined. And he's like, "Is there any way you could, you know, light me to get my abs a little bit more defined?" I'm like, "Yeah, okay." So I, you know, lit him from above. You bring the light from above, and whatever's there, the shadow will show a little bit more texture in that area, and it worked very well. So little things you can do. Now, another one of the 5 ways we've talked about, number 1 is contrast and drama. The second one would be focus, using shadows for focus. So keeping shadows on areas the viewer shouldn't see makes the lighted areas more focused. So if I'm taking a picture and it's a street scene and there's a sign in behind that's very important, and you're using shadows to block out the rest of the scene, it draws you to the sign that's really important, and it basically lends focus to the photo.
So yeah, the elements of composition, when you're looking at an image, your eyes will be drawn to the brightest part of the image first. That's where your eyes go first. So if there's something that you're trying to keep hidden, if it's in the shadows, people's eyes aren't drawn to that first. They may not see the pile of garbage, beside this really beautiful statue, if they're in enough shadow, and you can make it dark enough, not so dark that it's pure black, but dark enough that it becomes, mostly unnoticed.
Right. Yeah,
and that's where the camera can help us in that way, because our eyes can see more detail in lights and shadows than the camera can capture.
That's right. So the camera is going to make something that we would see as, fairly detailed still, like we'd see the texture in the rock or something like that, where the shadow or the camera would pick up mostly very dark.
So if we see a really contrasty shadow, then for the camera it's going to be even more so.
Right. So that's where you can use focus. Third way, directing attention. Now, I kind of interpreted this something very similar to focus. You're directing attention to something, so it's drawing focus to something. But if you look at it a little differently, it's actually when you use lines and shapes in the shadows to lead the eye to a focal point or draw attention to a story you're trying to tell. So you have, again, let's use the sign. Now all the shadows are aiming you to the sign. So they're actually drawing attention to the very specific thing you're trying to tell. So rather than eliminating things to draw attention, they're actually leading you to it.
Here's one that I took from the Algonquin trip that we just came back from, and I left the tripod in there because the extra lines draw you in, and the legs being spread out draws you into the top of the tripod, and the top of the tripod is right beside the head, where if you know anything about photography, you'd be holding the camera. I don't know why I'm using my hands, because you can't see them. But having the extra shadow or those extra lines gives a completely different effect than without the additional shadow. So just with a single shadow, right, it really doesn't have that same kind of depth to it.
Now imagine if you had the tripod in the shot alone, and at the very top of the tripod there was, like, I don't know, a beaver sitting there, or a moose or something. Now you're using...
We tried.
We did try. Oh, I'm still disappointed about that. Anyway, squirrel. But yeah, that's another way you could use it to direct the attention to something.
Now, I was really busy helping people, making sure everybody had the right settings, but what I was going to try to do is have the tripod in the photo and then have the long shadow of the tripod, so the shadow would make the tripod look huge, but in actual fact, the tripod, with all the legs folded, would have only been, like a couple of feet high, or a foot and a half high.
Well, these are things that, on the day trips, we're going to be giving more specific challenges like this. We're going to get people into more tighter groups and, do group shots and so on. So we're working toward a specific thing. This is something we've been talking about lately. So that'll be a lot of fun, and that's something we should remember to do. All right.
Yeah, picked up a couple of ideas from talking to some people about some things that we can do in the or on the day trips.
Always improving, right?
Yeah.
Always improving. It's all about the experience. So we always have a good time. We always meet a lot of great people. We always have fun. But we're always also trying to improve our way of delivering the information we're trying to give in an easily digestible way. So, and this is, having these little challenges can really help with that. Back to the 5 ways. We've talked about contrast and drama. We talked about focus, and then directing attention. There's still 2 more. One would be revealing form. So, what this means is usually while shooting from a low angle, it helps you create shadows on the horizon, or it helps reveal from the shadows on the horizon the shapes and the long shadows that make irregularities on the ground. So say, for example, you shoot very low. The sun's up here. You're shooting very low. The sun's going to hit the ground in a very long pattern, and anything in the ground sticking up would create irregularities in that shadow pattern. So it's revealing forms and revealing shapes from that long, stretched-out shadow from the sun. Interesting, different twist. So that's actually one that I never even thought about, and again, Ron Bigelow laid this out very clear, and it's very interesting. Had you ever thought about shadows in that regard?
Not in those words, but in that regard, absolutely. There's lots of times when I'll take an image and I'll wonder what's wrong with it. Why am I not getting what I want? And I got a perfect example here. I did this. I went up to Bracebridge, did a little bit of shooting with Bob, And this is the Bracebridge Falls. And I thought I'd have a great image here because I was there, I was in the experience, and I knew what was underneath because I've seen it in the summertime. But I'm looking at this, and it's completely uninteresting. And I think the reason why it's uninteresting is because the lighting is very flat. It's three-dimensional when you're there in person, but looking at this, so there's no form and no texture created on the ice and on the ice falls because there's a lack of shadow.
Right.
Now, I don't have the after photo of having the shadow here. I would have had to have been there at a different time of the day. But different times of the day are going to give you different shadows. So sometimes if you're not getting, the photo you want, it may be because of a lack of shadows. This is exactly that. This is a lack of shadows to show what you're saying about texture and form. And without that texture and form, it's just snow.
Right. And speaking of just snow, I think many people watching us right now are saying too soon, way too soon, to be seeing snow right now. Just so you know. You know what I'm saying?
No more snow.
No more snow. We've had our fill of snow. Blake actually has a good point as well. Shadows also come from all light sources in Algonquin. Blake was with us on that trip. One of the ladies had her shadow in two spots, ground and tree. The ground was from the sun. The one in the trees was made from reflection of the sun in the lake. So there was the sun creating a shadow and then reflection from the lake creating shadow, which is interesting as well.
Converging shadows.
Oh, it's going to be a battle. Rush will write a song about it. And the last way of that was recommended by Ron Bigelow was revealing texture. So you said earlier how the eye can see the texture in the ground even in the shadow. Well, you can actually, on a really sunny day, wash out those textures very easily by the sun. So if you shoot with the shadow on that area, that can actually give you better texture. You can see it more. So you could use it for all different reasons.
Has anyone tried to photograph Smarties before?
No, I've done jelly beans.
I did this for one of the Macro Monday challenges. And I played around with the lighting quite a lot before I took the image, just because I wanted to see how it was going to look. And having the shadow sort of about the 5 o'clock position for the composition of the way the Smarties were arranged gave me what I thought was the best balance, right? Using the shadow to show the roundness, like the underside of the Smartie. On the left side of the Smartie, it really doesn't have any depth or texture to it. And on the right side, it's got more because that shadow is there. Mm-hmm. So it gives us a sense of how big it is, how high it is. And changing our perspective in the camera angle, too, can also help that, getting down lower on the ground.
Absolutely. Even getting the shadow on the moon, the right time that you're going to shoot the moon, having shadows in the craters and so on makes a huge difference in the depth and the texture that you see.
And I always like to give people, projects and assignments they can do. Go out and find yourself a rock, sort of a craggly rock, that's got some dimples, and it's not a smooth rock. Take a photograph of it, 12 noon. And then about 7 o'clock at night when the sun's going down, take another photo of it from the same place, same angle. And just the way that the lighting is going to change on the rock, you're going to see more texture in it. You're going to see more detail in it. It's going to become more interesting.
Mm-hmm. And that's what we're talking about, the revealing texture. When you have the sun coming down at an angle, you're going to see more come out from there. Great advice. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Well, that's the depth that we don't see with our eyes. So in photography, we have to create it with shadows.
So the 5 ways to use shadows in photography, once again, according to Ron Bigelow, and I'm sure there are others. These are just some really clean, easy to digest ways. Contrast and drama, focus, directing the attention, revealing form, and revealing texture. Excellent ways. Terry says he got 5 o'clock shadow too, but it didn't take a picture. I live with the 5 o'clock shadow.
And again, with direct lighting, your 5 o'clock shadow is not going to be as pronounced as with side lighting. So always walk around looking straight into the light.
Yeah, it is my good light. Sounds like a Seinfeld episode.
Probably is somewhere.
If
If not, we'll have to get them back to do another series.
Yeah, right. No, it's okay. All right, so that was our brief discussion on shadow. We're going to get into some of the photos that our community members have taken for us for this challenge, and of course the conversation will continue on with that. So do you want to do a screen share, or do you want me to do that, Darren?
Yeah, no, I can go do the screen share here.
Awesome.
So we've already seen Ron's photo.
Yeah. So we're starting at the beginning. Good.
It was a little overpowering in the shadow.
A little bit too much shadow.
And being that it was a Canon, you are unable to pull any shadow detail out of it, so he just out of luck.
But, the photo was almost a winner, but unfortunately the EXIF data was stripped, so we didn't know when it was shot. Oh, and reminder, everybody, photos that are eligible for this photo challenge are only photos that were shot for the challenge. New photos, not photos from the past. Just a reminder to everybody who is getting involved in sharing photos and potentially not remembering that they're for new photos.
Okay, this is from Marjorie, and she was just forking around with some lighting.
I like the shot. I like the photo. It's a different composition than I think most people would expect. The fork being at the bottom, more toward the center, not even really at a third, but it works for me. It's a really clean shot. I love the shallow depth of field, how the right side just blurs right off. Very interesting.
And the shadow is revealing a different texture on the wood. Right? In some cases, in the darker areas, it's bringing out more of a texture and detail in the wood.
Mm-hmm.
So the shadow, using a shadow, and the texture of something. So the shadow is the shape, and the texture of the object can give it more interesting texture and form.
That's right, and this is what we were talking about, one of those ways, by revealing texture.
It is, and let's just have a look at her photo details. She took it with probably looks like a nifty 50 at f1.4. That's probably the lens she used.
Mm-hmm.
And very easy to get that shallow depth of field effect with that lens.
Close to the fork, so proximity, open aperture. It was shot at f1.4. That gave shallow depth of field. And
looks like it was probably just natural window light, or light from the room. Being black and white, we can't see any of the colors, so that takes away that aspect of it, which is great because it focuses more of our attention to the shadow.
And the texture.
The shadow knows.
The shadow knows. That was the first quote that I put when I created the event. As soon as I think shadow, I think of the Shadow radio show. All right.
Rhonda, I really like this one. This is one of the first ones that popped up, and I thought this is really cool because she got the people almost completely in shadow, so high contrast, high key, and the aquarium. So this is probably at Ripley's.
Mm-hmm. Everybody's going to Ripley's lately.
Believe it or not.
Wow. Zing.
Bazinga. And depth of field, well, I mean, they didn't have to be in focus. They could have been blurred out a little bit.
So that was a 24 to 70 f2.8 lens, shot at f2.8, so wide open.
At 58 millimeters. So just about everybody has a lens that can zoom to that.
Mm-hmm.
2.8 shallow depth of field, but that didn't really matter for creating shadows.
Right.
So it's just a case of making sure you adjust your exposure so that the people are dark and you're getting good exposure in the aquarium.
So meter to the aquarium, it's brighter, so it'll make the people darker.
And it was just a great environment because they keep it dark inside to avoid reflections of things like the exit sign in the image. I didn't notice that until just now.
Blake just pointed out that last photo of Marjorie's.
Yeah.
That was the first day with her new 50 millimeter Sigma lens.
Oh, okay, cool.
The Sigma 50 f1.4. Beautiful lens. Thanks for pointing that out, Blake. All right, so what's next here?
This is Julie's and chess table with some shadowy shapes. You can tell the season, even though it's black and white, you can tell the season because of the shadows.
Mm-hmm.
The shadows give it away. There are no leaves on those shadows.
That's right. And it's not fall because, there'd still be a lot of color, or you could see the leaves in that on the ground more. Definitely not winter, not around here.
Yeah, I'm not sure where that chess table is. I know that in downtown Toronto, Trinity Park, there's a bunch of chess tables.
There's also, I believe, chess tables along Fairy Lake.
Fairy Lake? Okay.
The pathway on Fairy Lake, which that may be.
We'll have to go sometime and have a game of checkers.
Yeah, I don't know how to play chess, so I'll have to do the checkers with you.
Exactly.
And yes, it was natural light on Marjorie's photo as well, Blake says. From the window in the fork?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, you are correct, sir.
I guessed right.
I like this shot a lot. I know that some people would see it out of focus or blurry. I like the mood of the photo. I love the leading lines with the lights coming in. I've actually done some photos of driving in a car and getting that. Oh, Julie says it was Fairy Lake. Very cool. I was right.
Okay.
We're doing
good.
Yeah, we're doing pretty good. We know our stuff. And so I really like the shot with the white line on the ground and the light from above. I like the way that the glow coming in from the end of the tunnel is bleeding up high into the center of the shot.
Yeah, and the shadows coming out of the shadows into the light. And again, the high key effect, it draws you into it. So our eyes are drawn to the brightest part of the photo, and the shadows help draw us in there.
Right. Very neat shot.
Yeah, and again, didn't have to do anything fancy with this, other than sort of steer with your knee as you're putting the camera up to the windshield.
Oh, and by the way, Daytripper Photo does not recommend nor endorse people taking photos while they drive. Just disclaimer time.
Yeah, it looks like it's more from the passenger side, so it looks like Rhonda was the passenger on this one.
That's what we're going to go with.
That's what we're going to go with.
Okay, now here Julie has what she calls a high-key shadow.
And this is where we had our discussion.
It is, and I'll be honest with you, I've always thought of high-key as the absence of black. And
I looked at this and I said, this isn't high key.
Right. So explain.
Well, high key would be the shadow behind the vase would have been very black, very dark. So a very contrasty difference between the shadow behind it and the light, the white vase. So I would call this a medium to low key shadow effect.
And but I love the shot.
It's simple.
I love the lightness of the shadow and the fact that you can see all the texture in the ground that it is. This is a perfect example of revealing texture, because if you look closely at the shadow, there is texture there, where on the parts where there is no shadow, there is no texture on the ground.
Yeah, so it gives the glassy, smooth vase different texture on the shadow. So it's like 2 in 1. It also has a more rounded shape. It looks more pear-shaped. The vase itself, and the shadow looks a little bit more rounded.
I like the way she chose the angle of the shadow as well, and the composition of having the vase on the left side with the angle leading toward the top right corner.
Yeah, so it's a lot of fun to play around with these things. And it looks like she had some fun. Let's just check out the photo details here. Oh, another 50mm setting. It wasn't a 50mm lens, 24 to 105 lens.
That 50mm is a very popular focal length.
She stopped it down, f14. So she wanted to make sure that she got the really good depth of field.
Oh.
Make sure everything would be in focus. So nice and sharp and crisp around the edges, crisp around the edges of the shadow.
So she used the Silver Effects Pro preset for high key. It was called high key.
Oh, okay.
That's why it's a high key. That makes sense, because you would assume Nick knows what they're talking about. But you know what they say when you assume, yeah?
Oh, okay.
Interesting. Okay. Thank you, Julie, for letting us know that. That's great. Okay, now this shot here, I get emerging from the shadows. I don't see any shadow.
Well, there are shadows.
I see reflection.
But there are
beautiful
shadows.
Reflection. Great
there
photo.
There are shadows in the reflection. There always have to be shadows.
Well, I guess that's true. And I mean, obviously, there's a difference in the texture from the way the light's hitting it. I think it's a cool shot. I mean, it's creepier than heck, but
It's a cool shot, but he doesn't seem to be in the shadow. He seems to be in the light.
mm-hmm.
So the lurking in the shadows would be more of play on words.
Yeah.
Because he's not in the shadow.
But it's very cool. Very nice photo.
But it is, yeah, it is. I like that. It's a nice image.
And I'm glad that this is in Charleston, South Carolina, not in Newmarket, Ontario, because it creeped me right out.
Not in your not in that swamp that's your backyard.
Oh my God, all the work I've done back there. Anyway, that's a whole other story. And then Mark's ever-present sense of humor.
Yeah, Shadow the cat.
Look at it just hanging on the railing like that. I mean, what cat does that? That cat's huge, and he's just hanging on a railing. Awesome.
So the cat was holding still, so a slower shutter speed, a 30th of a second, made it possible to get it and still keep it sharp.
Mm-hmm. But it's good though that he did choose to raise the ISO to 1600 to at least get that.
Yeah, and he used soft lighting because underneath the cat, it's very hard to see any shadows on the railing.
Mm-hmm.
So this is almost a picture of a shadow without shadow.
He must have had a huge softbox right over top of shadow.
He must have, something like that.
Something like that. No, I'm just kidding.
These are always interesting fences.
Yeah.
This is iron fences and the shadows that they create. So creating mood and a dramatic effect.
It's interesting though because the shadow looks like it's coming from below.
Yeah, it does.
So is it upside down? Has it been flipped?
I don't know. Maybe she used flash.
Maybe.
Maybe she used off-camera flash.
Makes you wonder though, eh?
It makes you wonder. And normally like a railing like that wouldn't be interesting, and the railing itself is not interesting, but it's the shadow created behind it that makes it really interesting. And if you look at the little smiley face here in the upper left-hand side of the rock, this is where shadow can bring out depth and texture in something that normally, you'd have thought of that as a flat wall, but the low angle of the light that gave us the dramatic shadow effect on the railing is also bringing out the texture on the concrete wall.
So this is actually using contrast and drama.
Yeah.
It's using revealing form, and it's using revealing texture.
Yeah. Excellent. And hey, everyone likes using a 50mm setting.
Oh, geez, eh?
Oh yeah, this was her 50 Sigma lens, wasn't she? Didn't she have? We did another one of hers that Blake said that this was her Sigma 50mm.
It must be. Yeah. And it's nice that she was stopping it down. F5.6. A lot of people, when they buy these bright lenses, they live in Brightville.
Yeah.
Everything they shoot for the next 500 photos is shot wide open, and it's very difficult to get proper sharpness where you need it and focus where you want it. So good for you for using the lens properly. And Laurie's photo, no, it's great.
The shadow knows, and the shadow will get you. And I don't know that I could contort my hands to make an eagle look like it's coming to get the poor little bunny rabbit.
It's well done. It's a good thought. I mean, the rabbit's not real. It's obviously a little figurine or figure, and it's looking up as though. I mean, she's got the angle right where the thing's looking up over its shoulder, and the eagle's coming from above. The size of the eagle ratio to the rabbit is fairly accurate.
And great creative, playful use of shadows. That's another. That's a sixth way you can use shadows, playfully.
Playfully, yeah. There you go. Blake says that last shot is actually a metal grate on the ground. It looks like a fence, though. How do you know all this stuff about Marjorie, Blake? What's going on with you two?
Yeah, there's
some shenanigans going on there.
Some Sixth Sense stuff going on there, maybe.
Sixth Sense. Blake's business name. Very good job. Very good job.
Okay, Kathleen.
Okay, now, this is a photo where I'm torn a little bit. Oh, so Marjorie is on her phone, so Blake is the middleman. She can't comment from her phone. Okay, well, I'm glad you're the middleman and you're doing it very well. So, Kathleen, the photo here, if we could check photo details. December 29th, 2012. I love the shot. I love the way the shadows are hitting off the steps.
At first, I didn't see that. At first, I thought it was some sort of staircase in midair.
It's a really interesting way that the shadows change from one to the next. But unfortunately, this isn't a new photo. So unfortunately, this one's not going to qualify for any kind of contest.
But it's really cool because it looks like it's the stairs on the side of one of those big oil containers.
Mm-hmm.
Storage.
And it makes me wonder, is that two lights or is that a shadow of the light?
I think that's a shadow of the light.
I think it is a shadow. It's a really cool shot. It keeps you looking, and I love the composition, going from the lower right to the top left.
Yeah, it's one of those ones that really makes you think.
Yes, it does.
And I would call this high key because it's a very very bright versus very dark.
Right. That makes sense.
So this a little bit more high key.
Cool.
Fernando.
I love this spot. I believe this is at the docks in Toronto, and I've been there many times. There's a big boat to the right there, and it's a really cool spot to shoot. And I think it's clever that he has the city in shadow, but also the little boy there is in shadow.
And again, using shadows to create and tell the story. So the light is backlighting things, which puts everything in shadow. So the shadows are the substance and form and shape of the entire image.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a I like the bird flying around up there above the buildings in the upper right-hand quadrant. I don't know if you can see that.
I thought that was a dust spot.
Yeah.
Joking. I'm only joking.
Shut up about that. I found a couple today yesterday.
No.
I had to clean my camera before I went out today.
Well, it's good that you can do that.
Yeah.
Make sure you clean everything else too, though, right there.
I'm getting caught because I did this once a little while ago after we did our sensor cleaning show. Squirrel. But what I'm doing, before I take the lens off the camera, I blow around the base of the lens. And a couple of times I've seen a bunch of dust fly off. And I'm thinking, boy, if I wasn't doing that every time I open it up, that's all getting sucked inside.
Mm-hmm.
I digress.
All right.
And actually, dust is really part of the conversation because the way that you can tell you have dust on your sensor is because the dust creates a shadow on the image sensor, so it is shadow.
That's a good point. That's exactly what does happen.
Unwanted shadow.
Unwanted, for sure.
This is cool. This is, again, another railing. And the shadows that the railing creates on the wooden walkway or wooden deck.
It almost looks like a railing on the ground.
Well, we know it's not a grate on the ground because that's already been
done. Lori's not a follower, so. Very cool.
Shows you what you can do if you turn something around.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If Lori would have turned this 90 degrees or turned it upside down, it would really have you scratching your head, wouldn't it?
It's true. It's true. Well, it still does. I mean, you can see the texture of the wood on the left side, mostly in the shadow.
And
so
I like
you know that's the vertical part there.
And that the pickets are on a slight angle.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Well done. Photo details. We haven't checked that.
Let's see. 1000. Oh, that's the 105. She loves her 105 macro.
And even at f8, still getting fairly shallow depth of field because we're up close in the high magnification.
Right. Right. It would have been very shallow if that was wide open. And again, here's a perfect example of someone who knows how to use their lens. They don't shoot everything wide open. Remember, guys, just because you spent the money on a 2.8 piece of glass doesn't mean you have to shoot at 2.8 all the time.
No, really?
Fred. Oh, look, more checkerboards.
More, yeah, checkerboards. And I wonder where this is. It's
This isn't in the same place.
No. But
we gotta find some of these checkerboards.
There's a some sort of, I guess, a sculpture, or not a sculpture, but steel framing that they're using, for a shopping plaza, like a gate post or entranceway, and the shadows falling on there, creating some really interesting textures on the ground.
It's amazing how you could be standing in a place and see something like this that catches your eye enough to say, I need to take a picture of this.
Yeah, and I think if we zoomed in on it and just cropped it out, just to keep it where the bricks are, this would give it a really cool effect. One of those, again, make you scratch your head and say, what is this?
Well, one of the things I thought was, as good as the photo may or may not be, it's kind of distracting because in the top left corner there's those bright blue recycling bins.
Yeah,
Which
so
really draw you away from what you're trying to show.
Can you see this?
I could see this.
So does this look a little more interesting? I can't really control the zoom or things are going to go wild and crazy, so I'm just going to sort of leave it where it is.
Yeah, if you move in a little bit closer, you actually pay attention to the brickwork and so on, right?
Yeah, so you can use, a small part of this. Use the shadow here, and just
goes back to. Pardon me, so tired right now. It goes back to the whole: if things aren't really speaking to you, then move in a little bit closer.
Yeah, so the garbage bins and the distraction of the neighborhood, just crop in a little bit closer and make it more interesting.
Terry says that this is actually in front of the library in Newmarket. The Newmarket is like a mecca for these boards.
Where's the library in Newmarket?
It's just off Main Street. There's on one of the side roads.
Oh, okay, yeah, I know where that is.
Yeah.
That's
where the senior center. I'm scrolling here for a second, but the senior center is meeting at the library now because all the construction along Davis Drive totally cracked the floor in the senior center along Davis Drive. The place has been abandoned now, pretty much, because they haven't been able to fix the floor. It's just disgusting. Newmarket, fixing the Davis Drive or ruining Davis Drive, however you want to say it.
Yeah, they needed to make it wider, but I don't know if they're going to fix it. We digress.
Yes. Yeah, that's a conversation we'll have again in about 4 years when they're finished.
This is a cool effect.
Now, you had a really interesting thought on this. You saw something different than I saw.
Yeah. What did I see? What did I mention? I mentioned that she was driving.
Yeah. Well, you love the shape. You love
the mirror. The mirror is losing it for me here.
There you go.
But having taken photos like this before myself, she wasn't driving.
No,
it's not blurred. The ground's not blurred.
Right.
But what a cool effect! Just crop out the window frame, right? So crop out the mirror in the bottom of the window frame, and that is a really cool image.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know whether that's a truck or a car. It kind of gives it a unique shape. I like that. That's really cool.
It's her family truckster.
Family truckster. It really looks like one of those little cubey things.
I saw when I was driving around today. I had to drive to Barrie to pick Shelley up and so on and so forth. I was driving around some back roads. I went to an old abandoned place, and I got to another place, and one of the houses had a brand new Hummer that was all jacked up. Like it was, all the wheels were gone. It was on bricks. It looks like somebody had come along and totally stripped the whole car. It was the craziest thing. It had that shape. That's why. I know, squirrel.
Cool. Any shadows?
There were some shadows, actually. Now, okay, so we talked about this. This is Paul's photo. I think it's really cool that the bikes have the really neat shapes and so on, but I find that the shadows are more secondary, and the bikes are what we're focusing on.
They are, but as you zoom in and fill your screen with it a little bit more, they stand out. Some of these shadows stand out a little bit more.
You see, that's a really neat little tip right there. We just talked about it for another photo, but here, when we zoom in further, it gives it a completely different feel.
Yeah, so without zooming in on it and going full screen, it's losing something, but when you zoom in, it's giving it a sense of depth. Remember I said our eyes can see the depth, but the camera can't? Well, these shadows give these bicycles depth.
So can you zoom in a little bit on that?
Zoom in more. Okay, let me...
Or is it not a high res?
Here, if I change my magnifier, where did it...
Whoa.
Yeah, okay, it's at 600%. And if I move my mouse over, and it went away.
It won't just zoom on the photo?
Okay, if I click on the magnifying, here we go. Okay, minus, minus, minus. There we go. Oh, and now, there we go.
You're at the end of the line.
Yeah, can't do much more than that.
Ah, okay. I think we get the idea. Going a little bit closer, and the shapes take over, and the shadows are a little bit more obvious, and it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
There you go. And what's left here? What else do we have?
2 more.
Well, just on time. We're doing well on time tonight.
Reminders that I need. Reminders that I need to repaint my deck.
Ah.
Because I have some lawn furniture. Actually, I think it's the same lawn furniture.
Well, I like this because the lines on the deck and the lines on the chair are kind of intersecting. They're working together well. And the texture is showing. The shape is showing.
Yeah, so it's giving a little bit of depth.
Once again, I think I'd kind of crop it in a little bit, get rid of the top line.
Yeah, it's a little bit busy. There's a little bit too much going on.
Yeah.
Maybe just keeping this shape of the shadow from the back of the chair and cutting off most of it.
So maybe get rid of the top two boards, a little bit from the left.
Yeah, so just in this area here.
I can't see what you're doing.
I wonder if I can...
That's okay.
Like that.
Yeah, there you go.
More like that.
Yeah, maybe not even as tight, but definitely that's the interesting point of the lines and so on right there. And you can see a lot more texture in between the cracks there too. Very cool.
And the subject line is guess.
Yeah. Well,
I think this is the 2 kilohertz diffracted radio Hammond.
Yeah, right.
Just throw a bunch of jargon at people and.
Where's the dock when you need them?
Yeah, where's the dock? But yeah, it looks like it's a laundry umbrella.
I would probably say I threw one of those out
laundry line.
We had one of those sitting out in the backyard forever. We dug it up out of the dirt, and I had to pitch it into that big garbage bin today. Oh man, you got to pay by the ton for those garbage bins. I am doomed. I'm gonna have to take on a 4th job just to pay for this garbage bin.
It's not gonna be that much.
Oh yeah, so full.
It's not gonna be that much money.
I'll let everybody know next week. All right, so let's pick our winning photos. And this week, we're giving away, I'm just going to cut away from your screen share for a quick second. This week, we're giving away 3 prizes. We're giving away an awesome account from 500px. 1 more of those. We gave away 5 of these things last week. So I'm only going to give 1 away this week because I think everybody now has one. And we're also going to give away 2 cotton carrier hand straps. So just like I have on the shorts right here, little hand strap, handy dandy, handy, get it? Yeah. So 2 of those and 1 of those going to today's winners. And thank you all for submitting. And the winners for today's challenge are. Wow, that was so well done with your timing and everything. All right, so we'll start with our honorable mention. Honorable mention this week, unfortunately, doesn't win a prize, but gets talked about. I don't know if that's a good thing. Honorable mention today was Jennifer's photo of the shadow that you really liked.
Yeah, the car.
Yeah. Wait, Blake says, oh yeah, Blake did put one in. Did he not tag it properly?
I'm in the weekly photo challenge.
Probably didn't tag it properly.
So either he didn't tag it or I needed to do a screen refresh because he posted it after or just before the show.
Now it does say 1 new there at the top of your screen.
Okay.
Maybe that's Blake's photo. Maybe you're hiding. Oh, look, it's Blake's photo.
It's Blake's photo.
Yay, Blake. All right, let's have a look. Now, 1 question. I'm assuming this was handheld. And what do the photo details say?
Photo details say 1/80th of a second.
80th of a second at what focal length?
150 millimeters.
150 millimeters. Now, what is our rule with focal length and shutter speed?
Should equal the shutter speed or higher.
Exactly, and this is not the case in this photo. So what do we have?
It looks like everything's soft because of camera movement.
That's right. So Blake, I love the shadow, and you know me and band photography. I love it. Unfortunately, it's a bit soft. So next time, what's your ISO there? 250? Crank up your ISO, my friend. Your camera can take it. You've got a D800. You can live at 3200 and make great band photos.
Or make sure you turn on the image stabilization. Maybe it was turned off.
Well, with what? Oh, that was the 150 f2.8 Sigma that he was trying out.
Oh, does it have stabilization?
I don't recall. I think it does. I think it is stabilized. Yes, it is stabilized.
Okay, maybe either it wasn't turned on or he was just really wiggling and jiggling a little too much.
Yeah, stop wiggling, Blake.
Stop wiggling, Blake. Yeah, no wiggling while you're taking photos. Take the wiggling until you're editing.
But thank you for submitting, as always, buddy. Yeah. You are awesome with those sounds. I'm very impressed. Okay. So we talked about third place, or the honorable mention, I should say, was Jennifer's for the shadow of her car. Third place, and the winner of a cotton carrier hand strap, is Julie for her high key photo. There it is. I love the photo. I picked this myself as one of the best photos of the week because I love the simplicity of it. I love the clarity of it. And of course, when I thought of high key, I was thinking of the absence of black, so this definitely fit the bill. But as we've discussed, it's not necessarily the case, although it is the NYX Silver Effects Pro effect called high key. Apparently, it's not high key or something.
Well, it is high key because she called it, so there.
There it is. Done. Solved.
Done.
That trumps everything. Okay, and the second place winner, and the winner gets, I don't remember if Rhonda won a 500px account yet. One of these winners, if you didn't win the 500px account, let me know, and you're going to get that 500px. And the others are going to get the hand strap. The second place winner goes to Rhonda for her aquarium photo. And again, we have to just say that since Gabriel isn't with us on the show tonight, he wasn't involved in picking the winners for this week. This came down to Darren and myself.
Actually, he was involved, and anybody, if you have a disagreement, it was Gabriel's fault. Talk to Gabriel.
Yeah, I'd say no to that one.
Yeah. I'm gonna love it when I'm not here.
Yeah, right. No, we always miss Gabriel. He's such a fun guy. But you know what? Traffic is traffic. What can you do? Poor guy's on the road like you are all the time, you know?
He is. I think he had a long day last couple of days.
Yeah, he definitely did. I think all of us have had a pretty long week. Anyway, back to the photos, because that's what matters here. Rhonda's photo that we have right in front of you there was the winner for second place at the aquarium. And again, this was something that Darren really picked out as, the contrast of the shadow and this was the high key kind of photo that we were thinking about. So, excellent shot there. And the winner of first place goes to Lori for the In the Eagle's Shadow photo.
And I feel kind of bad looking at this photo because I just ate a bunny today.
You ate a bunny today?
Yeah, the Lindt chocolate bunny.
Oh, God.
Rest in peace, little guy.
And Rhonda, yes, Julie points out that Rhonda was a winner from last week, so she has a 500px account. We'll figure something out. I'll make sure everybody has something really cool. We'll talk, as Bubby says. We'll talk about something. Anyway, I digress.
Okay.
So those are our winners tonight. Lori is number 1 for In the Eagle's Shadow. Rhonda was number 2 for the aquarium photo. Julie was number 3 for her high key photo. And the honorable mention goes to Jennifer Brake for her shadow of her car. Now, I posted something on the... Thank you, Darren, for doing the screen sharing for all that, by the way. I posted something on the Daytripper community earlier. I asked people to guess what it was, and I had a lot of things, anything from strainer to flash, whatever. Turns out it was a flash. This is the Zeiss Icon little flash. Takes the bulbs in the center, but it's really cool. It comes in this little cover. On the back, you have your controls. Right there. There you go. And it opens up like a little fan. So you pull it out, and then you put the bulb in the center, and there's your little reflector. It's my little shadow maker.
Any capacitors still inside there?
No. No, that's all out right now.
Because when they leak, they get messy.
This is not messy. It's very clean. I love the little package. Now, I'm probably never going to use it, but it's a really neat thing to look at. And a lot of this older photography equipment, although we may not use it as much today, as long as it still works, it's a functional thing. It worked well back then. If it still works now, it'll work well now. So there it is. That was what we had on the, can you guess this, on the community. All right. Anything else to add for tonight there, Darren?
Well, we have to come up with a photo challenge for next week.
Yes, we do, don't we?
And had you given any thought to that?
That would be a big fat...
Throw it back at me.
Yeah.
Let's ask Gabriel what he thinks. Gabriel, what do you think the challenge should be for next week?
What do you think, Gabe?
I think that the challenge should be...
Okay, now to be serious, the photo challenge for this coming week will be...
warmth.
Oh, I love it. Love it.
With warm weather that's just starting to come, and it feels like we've been in a deep freeze since about October. Warmth. Any kind of photo that can show warmth, sunshine warmth, fireplace warmth, the warmth in your heart, whatever.
Beautiful.
It's going to be warmth, and I've given everyone some ideas.
There you go. Excellent theme. Thank you, Darren, for picking that. And I'm going to leave us tonight with our quote of the day. Before I do that, I just want to remind everybody, click like, share, tell your friends about our show. If you think that we offer any kind of value in any way, shape, or form to the photographer out there, please tell the world that we're doing what we're doing. The quote for this week is something from an old guy. It's been around a while. He says, "Character is like a tree and reputation like a shadow. The shadow is what we think of it. The tree is the real thing." This is from Abraham Lincoln, 16th President of the United States of America.
I was going to say that sounded like Joseph LeDuc, but...
No.
Close.
I'm not even going to go there. Joe was a military man. He will get me in some sort of arm bar and break me.
Yeah, he's gonna give me some M16 target practice, I'm sure.
That's okay. You deserve it. All right. So remember, character is like a tree and reputation like a shadow. The shadow is what we think of it, and the tree is the real thing, from Abraham Lincoln. There's our quote. And if anybody has anything else they'd like to add, we are about to end the show, so please post it in the Q&A before we do. Before then, Darren, where can folks get a hold of you? You say the real estate business is picking up, but you do a lot more than just that.
Yeah, I do architectural, interior photography, panoramas. I'll leave it at that. Don't open up too many doors. Also do camera training, computer training. If you want to learn how to use Lightroom or learn how to use Photoshop, drop me a line. I can get you going and help you out. I always try to give people, rather than, just tell them, well, pay me and I'll show you how to fix it. I offer them suggestions before they pay me. Most of the time people say, no, I want you to come over here and explain it to me anyways, because I really got lost and I want you to fix it up for me. But I always like to try to give people some ideas of avenues they can take, because not everyone can afford some money, and some people can't afford not to get the training because they're just so messed up and lost. And sometimes, explaining it in a way that can make sense to you on your computer can really help you out. So it's something I enjoy doing. And get hold of me at my email at the bottom, darren@dgvirtualtours.com.
There you go. And of course, my name is Brian Weiss. I run Daytripper Photo, and I love that these guys help out with it every time we do a day trip. Speaking of cool things that we have coming up, we have a couple day trips, or I should say academy sessions planned, and I totally lost my dates. So do you have your calendar open by any chance there, Darren?
I have my calendar open, and I have to put on reading glasses so see things that are going on. So we've got 2 sessions that are booked, and the first one is going to be the May 26th, which is a Monday, 7 p.m. to 7 to 8. Introduction to spot removal tool in Lightroom.
Okay, so this is using Lightroom to get the basics of spot removal. So we did our session with the falconry, and one of the things a lot of people wanted to do was edit out the trusses on the feet of the birds. So using this little clone tool in a very simple way, you're able to get rid of a lot of this stuff. So Gabriel is going to be doing this session at the Daytripper Academy in Aurora. Intro to spot removal. Now the best part about the session is the price. This is, like Darren said, this is a 1 hour class, a 1 hour, hour and a half. Knowing Gabriel, it could go a little bit longer because he's very thorough. But at the same time, we're keeping it very simple for those who just want a very quick show up, get a great little course in, learn a couple key things. We're doing this for $45 each. And if you're interested, we will have this up on the website shortly for you to book for that. So May 26th from 7 till 8. Also, there's a second date for that as well, a standby date.
And that is May 30th, Friday, May 30th, again at 7 p.m.
So either a Monday or a Friday, and we're just waiting to see what days work out best. And for those of you who book on a Monday and it ends up being the Friday, we're just going to flip it, hopefully, to whichever one is going to run best. And if there's enough people, we'll do it twice. All right, and
the second session is going to be learning how to make selections in Photoshop, and that includes Photoshop elements. So if there's somebody in your photograph that their face is really red and you want to make their skin tones more natural but leave everybody else alone, you want to know how you can select just them. Maybe you want to select a person or a flower out of a photograph and paste it into another photograph. Maybe you want to select a person and then put them on a different background.
Or even just remove them altogether.
Remove them altogether. So there's just so many things to do, or so many ideas that you could have, but knowing how to use selections can really help you out. And it's running on Saturday, May 31st at 9 a.m. and also on Monday, June 2nd at 7 p.m.
Now this is a different kind of course. This is not as simple, I don't want to say simple, but this is a longer duration course than the one that Gabriel's running. So Gabriel's going to be doing the intro to spot removal, but then you're taking it a completely different step with this selection tool.
Yeah, so using selections. There's a number of different selection tools, and some of them are common to both Photoshop Elements and Photoshop. So if everybody shows up and nobody has Elements, then we'll just do the Photoshop things. Some of them are common to both, and depending, 2 hours is not that much time to get into, looking at all the things you can do in selections.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll show you all the different ways. And for the most part, for what we're going to be doing, there really is no significant difference between selecting using Photoshop or selecting using Photoshop Elements. It's pretty much the same. They both have a lot of power in doing this.
Now, as you say, this is a 2-hour session, so this is a $100 class. So we have two choices for folks out there right now for our Academy classes. And again, the Academy classes are in our boardroom that we have with the whole presentation and very hands-on, with your computers, getting stuff done right there and learning some skills that you're going to use every single time you do an edit. So for those of you interested, please let us know, either through the Daytripper community or email us or go to the website and email me through there. And to get a hold of, sorry, go ahead.
It's listed on the website right now. People can sign up directly on the website.
At this very second, no. Unfortunately, since we've talked about it, I haven't had a second to breathe, let alone put it on the website. But it will go up there as soon as possible, but we're going to post it on the community right away so people know about it. So apologize for that. That's my drop in the ball. Crazy out there. You should see my yard right now. It's just nuts. My
so
story
for both of these sessions, it's bring your own computer. So for Gabriel's, he's going to post the version of Lightroom that it's advised that you would have because he's using the latest one. So if you don't have Lightroom 5, then you might want to upgrade. And I'll let Gabriel speak to that because he's taking care of that. If you do have Lightroom 5, just make sure before you come that you check for updates to make sure you've got the latest version because they have made some improvements and changes to the spot removal tool. And for mine, it can be any version of Photoshop Elements or Photoshop because the basics of making the selections and little tips and tricks, they sort of go along with all of those. So it's not version dependent. Just bring your computer, come along, and we'll give you some sample images. Both Gabriel's going to have some sample images for you to use. I'll have some sample images so that we can all be working on the same thing. And then, of course, if you have any problematic images that you've worked on, by all means, bring those along, and Gabriel or myself will be able to help you out and give you some advice, or maybe work on those instead of working on the class images. We're flexible.
That's what I was going to say. It's a very flexible environment. On any day trip, we want to make sure that we're catering to who shows up and answering the questions that need answered. Okay, that's it. Anything else to add, Darren?
I'm good.
I'm good too. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Sorry, Gabriel didn't make it in, but we'll give him a hug and a kiss later.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks everybody for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the show. And we'll talk to you later. Take care, everybody.
I'm giving him the hug.
I'm stuck with the kiss again. All right. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Take care.